Good evening. It's Thursday, 4/27, 2023, and it's time for your Thursday Call the Wild Outdoors live show. And today we're going to talk about fishing the opener on Saturday, maybe some little tips on how to get those little finicky trout to bite. And then we'll cover any questions that you may have as well. I did get out smelt dipping Saturday over at the Singing Bridge by, well, a little south of Tawas, but Augray. Singing Bridge is also known as Whitney Drain. But I got there, as the old saying goes, a couple days too late. They were getting them Thursday night, I guess, but I seen two smelt, wasn't able to get them. Hey, Pat, how's it going? And I did see a steelhead. There was some guys catching or fishing for walleye out there. They're wading out to the sandbar and casting after dark. So, you ready for the fishing season opener on Saturday, Pat? I'm not going to be able to get my boat out. I screwed up. I put the new rudder shaft seal in, the rope seal, and I had a fill hose that was getting pretty deteriorated. So I replaced that. And in the process, I had to cut myself a little access hole in my liner. And I bumped my transducer cable and put a nice cut in it. And of course, the new fish finder that I bought for the big boat, it doesn't work. It is a different transducer, even though they're the same unit. So I had to find one and order one. And that should be here Monday or Tuesday. So it'll be the latest I've ever gotten my boat out on the water, but it is what it is. So I'll be stream fishing this weekend. It happens. It was my own stupidity. I got in a hurry. I looked up there, but I didn't look real good, and I seen power wire and a ground wire. Well, those can be fixed if I bumped them, and yeah, my transducer cable is right behind them. So it was my own fault. I just got into too big of a hurry trying to get it done. On a good note, though, I was expecting that rudder seal to take me half the day, and it took me 27 minutes. I think it's the fastest rope seal I've ever done in my life. Matter of fact, it went too smooth. Something That's probably why I cut my transducer cable. Something had to happen. Flint River, huh? I used to fish at Holloway Reservoir and catch walleye back in the 80s. We used to launch right by the grocery store there in Columbiaville. Matter of fact, I learned to water ski on Holloway Reservoir. Had an old 16-foot boat, wood boat, with a 35 horse, an old 35 horse Mercury on it. It struggled to get me up, but once it got me up, I could ski. As long as I was on two skis, as soon as I kicked off to one, I'd wipe out. And I always thought it was just me. Well, I got a bigger boat, and I was out on Silver Lake at my uncle's place, and he decided to pull me with a Sea Ray. I kicked off a ski, and I had no problem. I rode right around the lake. on a single ski, so I just didn't have the power and speed with the 35 horse to stay up on one ski. So they get any trout over there where you're gonna be fishing at, Pat? Because I know I'm gonna fish the Betsy River. That's just 200 miles or 200 miles, 200 yards away from my house here. But I might end up going down to the Pere Marquette River too. I've always done real well down there. And then there's a couple little creeks around here I want to try for some brook trout that are off the beaten path. Just depends on if I get my truck brake line fixed or not before Saturday. I sure can't take my car back to a couple of these streams. And then either tomorrow night or Saturday night, I'll be trying for some smelt out in Platte Bay at the mouth of the Platte River there. The nice thing about fishing the two creeks I want to fish, I can kind of look for mushrooms on my way to and from the stream because it's not too far from my mushroom spots. Oh, nice. That sounds like a good time. They basically, we always call it the first festival of the year. We don't count the ice fishing festivals. Um, Kalkaska Trout Festival's on right now, and that'll go through the weekend. That's the first big festival up here, and then the next one will be Mother's Day weekend in Mesick for the Mushroom Festival. And they are getting a few mushrooms around here. They're just real spotty still. But we got up to 62 today. It took it a while, but it finally got up there. Tomorrow we're supposed to be pretty close to 70, if not 70, and maybe by the end of the weekend there'll be some up. So you gotta use harnesses or plugs trying to get them walleye. Because I've been using, and I picked up a bunch. Let me see if I can grab some. Figured I'd give them a try. They're picked them up at Walmart. They're cheap, Chinese made, but I think they're gonna work real good. They're real tiny, and it might just be the ticket. I got that, and then the old Rebel Crawdad imitation. But to give you an idea on the length, I think these are going to be just a ticket for these preseason fish. I've been using Repel from Walmart. They got two varieties. They got one that's 28% DEET, and then the Sportsman's Formula that you get back in the sporting goods department. That's got 40% DEET. I haven't had no problem with ticks with the 40% DEET. And I've been out in the woods a lot. Other people can say that DEET don't work, but I'm telling you, I haven't had no problem. My friends are getting ticks, or were getting ticks. They started spraying with the Repel. They're not getting ticks. So there is another product that's recommended. I got to find me some. It's permethrin. And I was reading about that online, and you douse your clothes with it, hang them up to dry, and then once it dries, it's good for a couple weeks. You can go out there, and if gets on your clothes, they'll fall off and they actually die. Jigging, okay, that'll work. Yep. White Mr. Twister always worked good down the river, Detroit River, that is, when I used to jig down there. I used to just smash them down there when I lived down there. And then in Port Huron, casting off the wall, you cast Mr. Twister, the white Mr. Twister. For some reason, the white one seemed to really do it. Again, I'm talking back in the 80s and early 90s, but from what I'm gathering, it still works down there. A few people that I talked to. And I prepped my jig mold last week, but I haven't poured nothing with it yet. But I got all the hooks and stuff to do that. Then I'll pick up some paints. And I want to make those on a video, but I got to set up the GoPro for that. I'm having problems with that camera right now. In my last video, I had to film with my phone. I know I got to find a real camera here shortly, because that GoPro's just become unreliable. So what size jigs you using? Like 1/4 ounce? I think I used to use 1/4 ounce and 3/16 ounce down the river. And then St. Clair River, I'd cast like 1/8 ounce and 3/16 ounce. I didn't want that going that deep. Cast it out there in front of the current, let it drift down, because it's 27-mile-an-hour current there in Port Huron. Just kind of let it sink in the current. A lot of times you pick them up that way. You don't even have to reel it. Then I used to piggyback pencil plugs too, fishing at night. I'd stand down there and I'd use a 2-ounce pencil sinker, and then a foot above that, I'd put a 3-way swivel. Off the 3-way swivel, I'd put a lead about 30 inches, hook up my first pencil plug, and then I'd get another lead that was about 18 inches and hook it up right to the back hook eye of the first pencil plug, and they call that piggybacking. Lower it down and jigging bottom. You'll feel bottom with the 2-ounce, and then pretty soon you lose it. So you let out a little bit of line, and you're actually bouncing down. And I'll tell you what, I used to just smash the walleye there all summer long doing that. Gave me something to do all night. I used to stand down by the Coast Guard boat Bramble there in Port Huron. There was no fence there along the seawall, so I could stand right next to the seawall and I could operate that rod real good, holding the tip down instead of reaching over a guardrail. And I just bounced down right next to that Bramble boat. They always had a light coming off the side that attracted minnows, and it kept walleye in the area. The Repel has a 100 DEET, but it's a lotion. You can't get it on your clothes, but you could use it on your skin, like on your legs and stuff, probably. If you're not worried about the DEET. I don't worry about it. I've been spraying DEET on me since I was a kid. I ain't had no problems, so. Quarter to 3/8. Oh, 1 ounce. That's a big jig. Wow. Yeah, I've never used nothing that big on the St. Clair River, but I've never tried to get down to the bottom when I was jigging there. And if I was jigging out in a boat on the St. Clair River, 99% of the time I was down by Algonac. There's almost no current there. You can get down there with a little bit of nothing. I don't know. I used to take a 12-foot boat when I was younger all over the place. I used to go way out in Lake St. Clair, and that was in my younger, wilder days. I probably wouldn't do it with a 12-footer right now, but 14-footer, the one that I got, it don't fit on a car. It's a little too wide for that, and it holds up to a 40 horsepower, even though I don't have the kahunas to put a 40 horse on it, but that boat I take out all the time. Matter of fact, that boat, I've caught more fish in that boat than my three big boats combined. And it's going to take, probably at the rate I'm going right now, decades for the big boats to even catch up to that aluminum boat. Because I used to take that out with my boys out in the Platte Bay, and we get a 3-man limit every night. And when it was too rough to get out of the river mouth and over to the bay, which 90% of the time you're within 200 feet of shore where I was fishing at, we'd fish in Platte or Betsy Bay inside the breakwalls and go out, troll along almost out to the mouth where the lighthouse is, and come back. And at the time, the car ferry was in there, and I'd troll up alongside that car ferry, and I'd just have my Dipsy rod just nicking it every once in a while, and we'd get our limits in there too. The difference is those ones, they're technically in the river. They darkened up. The ones you catch out on Platte Bay are silvery, and we also caught a lot of coho out on Platte Bay. And I don't know how many coho you've ever caught, but they're a riot. They're insane for their size. They got so much punch, and they go nuts when they're on a hook. You never know what they're gonna do. You're probably the biggest tackle killers out there is a coho. But the old 12-footer that I had up until I think I sold it in 87 or 88, I used to walleye fish with that. I caught so many walleye in that boat. Lake St. Clair, Mullet Lake, Lake St. Helen, Houghton Lake. That was a walleye smasher. Usually had to troll with an electric motor though for walleye speed in that boat. Lake St. Clair, after about 9:30 in the morning, I could get away with trolling with a gas motor because it gets so wavy. But if it was calm out, had to use the electric motor. The gas just pushed that boat too quick, and it was only a 5 horse. Okay, I've never seen that yet, but I know I've read online that you can spray that on your clothes and you let it dry, and it lasts for a couple of weeks. And I got a belief that the only good tick is a dead tick, so anything that'll kill them, I'll have to look into getting that, because if it kills them on your clothes after it's dried out, I'm sure it'll kill them on your body too. And I just don't like ticks. There's a few things that just give me the creeps in life, and terrified of wasps, terrified of scorpions, and ticks just give me the creeps. One of the guys I work with got a couple ticks on him. He ended up at the doctor last week after he pulled them off. He ended up with a little bullseye. He's got to go back this week. for a blood test. They're not sure if it's Lyme disease or not, but it's in a really weird spot. It was be at like the belt line of his pants, so it could have just been irritated and infected too, causing it. Because it wasn't a big bullseye. It was you could have covered it with a quarter pretty easily, but definitely be enough to freak myself out. That's for sure. He's always running his hunting dogs and stuff like that, and he's not sure where he got it from because he was out mushroom hunting. He was out running his dogs, um, doing some other stuff. He said he could have picked it up from his dogs, could have picked it up out in the woods. All right, well, you have a good night too, Pat, and thanks for stopping in and viewing. Appreciate it. Evening. What you up to? There's a little delay from when chat and stuff. Oh, you got the Trans Am out and legal, huh? Nice. Running pretty good for you? Sawyer. What the heck you going to Sawyer for? Yeah, I pulled a dumb thing the other day when I was fixing my boat. Okay, that's fine. I cut my transducer cable. So I figured, no big deal. I'll just use a transducer out of the new fish finder that I bought for my big boat because I bought the Helix 5 for that too. No sense learning how to operate a new fish finder. Well, the transducers ain't compatible. So I had to order a transducer. Yeah. Oops. Got into a hurry. My own fault. Never do that on a customer's boat, but I can do it on my own all the time. I just getting too much of a hurry, I guess. Yeah, so that transducer will be here Monday or Tuesday, so I don't have it for the weekend because I'm not going to put it in the water and then pull it back out to change the transducer. So I'll be fishing from shore this weekend for the opener. That's the boat I'm talking about. I cut the transducer cable on it. So if I get the transducer Monday or Tuesday, it'll be on the water Wednesday night. This is the latest I've ever put it in. I've always had it in by like the 15th or 16th of April. It bugs me too because they're getting lake trout out there in close. Oh, do you? Okay, well, I will try to plan it for Wednesday then. All depends on if that transducer comes in or not. It'll only take me 20 minutes to put it on and wire it, but then I got a spring start. Of course, I can do that this weekend. Get it ready to go. But that'll save me a lot of walking too if I got somebody to go out Wednesday when I launch it, because otherwise I got to walk from the marina all the way back to the boat launch, and it's about 2.5, 3 miles. That gets old real fast too. You been out mushroom hunting at all? Buddy got a few last week, but he was in a spot that was had a lot of sun, and he got them in one little area around one particular tree. And he left a few small ones out there, and he's been going back, but they haven't really grown yet. So I think it's just because it cooled down so much. Yeah, I remember that. She having a hard time with that? Or I should say she having a hard time dealing with it, getting used to it. Okay, that sucks. So that just brought everything back up to the forefront again. That's where sometimes it's better to have that stuff right away. Just deal with all of it at one particular time and then be done with it. Yeah, just so you know, there's a huge delay between when I say something and how chat comes in. It's going to take me a while to get used to that. I ran some tests all week and sped it up a little bit, but it's up and down. It can go as high as 20 seconds. I have it down to 3 or 4 most of the time. Excuse me. Yep, that's when you find out who your friends are, when the chips get rough. Yeah, we've all been there. I was just talking about the tips and stuff for the upcoming opener for trout. And I was talking with one of the guys on here. He's gonna be jigging for walleye, which is cool. And I'll be hitting the trout. I got my little trout rod here, nice and flimsy, and got the split shot on it, so it's pretty much ready to go. But it's a what 4 foot rod. The last fish I had on it was a steelhead, and I couldn't bury the hooks. Just didn't have enough backbone. Yes, April 1st needed a new license. No, the lake rods are nice, and I picked up some new reels this year too. In the off season, I got a steal of a price on them. Big trolling reels. So I ended up buying 8 of them. I can't wait to get that little rod out for some bluegills too, because I think it's going to be great. They're going to look like I'm fighting a 10-pound pike or something on it. That thing's flimsier than my fly rod. Matter of fact, I've got ice fishing rods with more backbone than that thing has. Yeah, them new reels I got. You haven't been bluegill fish. Oh, really? Well, it's been a while since I've actually fished for bluegills. Um, I got a spot down in Lake County I love to fish. I get them slab-sided bluegills, but you got to have 4-wheel drive to get back to the lake. It's a place I used to duck hunt too. All the years I duck hunted it. No, no, this one's out in the middle of the woods. But you used to fish there. Did you do any good? Get any size to them? But all the years I duck hunted that little lake in Lake County that I fished or that I hunted, I got hundreds of wood ducks, one mallard, one bluebill, and one Canadian goose. It's like thing was a magnet for wood duck. So, but it's down in a hole. It's kind of like a beaver pond. A lot of beavers in it. This little lake I go to, nobody really fishes it. Too much work to get to it. It's quite a ways back in the woods. You can get there on horseback or with. Well, the last time I got a 4-wheel drive back in there, but there's another way in that I can get to with 4-wheel drive as well, but probably better off with my quad. Oh, is it? Well, I got a couple little creeks over here by me that run off they flow into the Betsy, and I have a feeling they may have some brook trout in them. And if I can get my brake line fixed on my truck between now and the end of the weekend, I'm going to fish them at least for a little bit. I've been saying that for since 1995 and never had the time to do it. Well, now I got the time, so I'm going to get out there and see what's in them. And that little rod's going to be perfect because these cricks, you can step across them. And those are the ones I've always done the best at over by Tawas, Oscoda area. Them little cricks that you can step across. I've caught some massive amounts of brook trout in them. Matter of fact, my biggest brook trout caught in Michigan, I caught over between Tawas and Oscoda on a creek you could literally step across. It was a drainage ditch. And I caught it on, I was standing on the road and I flipped a worm in underneath the culvert that was going underneath some dude's driveway and pulled the fish out of there. And he was 14 inches long. And the guy was coming out of his driveway at the time, and he didn't see the fish. He says, "You ever catch anything in there?" I says, "Yeah." And I showed him what I caught. He says, "Damn." He says, "This thing runs out of water in the summertime." I says, "Yeah, but I says right now it's got water and the trout are in it." I says, I've always caught brook trout in this creek." I says, "They come up from the swamp." Well, he didn't know that, so now he does. Probably ruined my spot. I haven't fished it since, actually. That was in 91. I just don't get over to that side of the state much anymore. I was over there last Saturday smelt dipping, but as the old saying goes, 2 days too late. And then my gut was telling me to go up to Oscoda, and I didn't listen to it. And guess what they were getting in, or not Oscoda, Tawas. They were getting a smelt in Tawas that night. Oh, heck no, I'd be fishing it. He just thought it was too small. I says, "No, them small things." I says, "Everybody overlooks them. That's where you get some of the nicest brook trout out of this time of year." I know it. I know I should, but you know, I always do it, and it always comes back to haunt me. But on that same note, if I follow my gut, it usually don't pay off. And there was rain hit or miss, and I know one thing. I came home, I left there. I got home about 10 to 4 in the morning, and I must have seen 200, 250 deer on the way home. And most of them were that stretch right from US 23 to the way I went to I-75. But within 15 miles of US 23, I must have seen 100 deer, if not more. They were just herds all over the place. I couldn't go over 40 miles an hour, and it seemed like every time I get up to 40, I'd have to hit the brakes because deer would be out on the road. Oh, it wouldn't have mattered to you anyways if you would have took the Monty over there. You'd have just mowed them over. You'd think them deer'd be getting smart and say, "Oh, wait a minute, she ain't gonna stop." Sorry, got to pick on you. Yeah, I don't know what's with this reel. I don't know if they've got deer whistles installed in it or not, but I get within 400 or 500 yards and they're always looking at me. They'll pick their heads right up and look at me, and it doesn't happen with any of my other cars. Yeah, I still want to see you get that front license plate that you were talking about. That'd be cool. Even when I went down to Florida over the winter, running through the mountains and stuff, them deer would look at me. I started seeing deer in Virginia, um, few in West Virginia, and then North Carolina had a lot of them by the side of the road. And they were always picking their heads up and looking at me. And it was weird because there would be semis in front of me, and I'd hit a spot, and all of a sudden I'd see the eyes coming up from the ground. So they weren't paying attention to the semis, but something in my car makes them look. Fun. Transleaks are always fun. Seen a lot of those GMs. They get a hairline crack by the cooling lines, and they leak like a sieve on at certain points. But if you got them sitting in a driveway and you just in park, they don't leak. Hmm. Could be an O-ring for the shift mechanism. Those will leak too. Have you had anybody replace cooling lines in the last couple of years with that? Or immediately before the leak? Because they might have put a hairline crack in it. Oh yeah, that's real common on GM's dipstick tube. It isn't just their transmission dipsticks; their oil dipsticks rust out too and leak like a sieve. Excuse me. Hmm. Yeah, but that leak on the garage floor, that could be stuff that splashed up when you're going down the road and then leaking down. Yeah, it sounds like a dipstick tube or a cooling line. That's possible. The cooling line has a tiny, minute hole in it too. If it's been a while since they've been changed, but if you change them, be real careful when you screw them back in. Don't over tighten them. That's I've seen so many of them get a hairline crack in them, and you don't notice it, and then you're driving it down, it gets warm, and that crack separates. Well, that's a bit extreme. Oh, nice. I could use one of those. Yeah, I could definitely use one of those. Yeah, I'm gonna try and get out smelt dipping this weekend too at the Platte River, right there at the mouth. See if I can't get something. Hopefully the water will be warm enough. If not, then I'll have to just plan on going up to the UP at the Carp River when they run there, if they haven't ain't over with yet. I'll bet. Yep. It's federal land, and then there's a county park right there with a boat launch. But there's that. I've taken you down to driving back through the woods down to out front where I fish for salmon a few times. That's the beach area. That's Platte Bay. All right. Well, you have a good night, and thanks for stopping in. And I'll get a hold of you, if not this weekend, Monday or Tuesday, and let you know how things are going on the boat and if we're going to launch it on Wednesday or not. All right. And like I said, we'll get out and do a little fishing too. If we get the boat in the water, at least for an hour or two. All right. Thanks. Well, I guess at this point I'll end the stream. And thanks for watching Call the Wild Outdoors. I'll see you Thursday.